Hello, and welcome to Chapter 1, Step 1 of the speech making process. Step 1 involves selecting your topic, purpose, and thesis. Keep in mind that your topic has to be worthwhile and something that will prove interesting to the audience. But how do we go about finding the topic? Well, for one thing, you should select a topic that you're interested in, know something about, and or can interest the audience. Keep yourself in mind. Try brainstorming. Use topic lists. Read surveys to see out what your audience finds important. Check news sites. And lastly, keep in mind that you have a breadth of experiences that no one else in this course has had. Have faith in yourself. On this slide, you'll find the goals we'll be working on for Chapter 1. Each step will have its own lecture, and we're going to begin, of course, with Step 1. And you'll need your workbook as you watch the video. This way, you can pause at any time, refer to the examples in your workbook and in the video to complete your homework assignment. In your workbook, you'll also find a place for taking notes. For our objectives in this particular chapter, we'll be looking at the nature of public speaking, narrowing a speech topic, looking at the sociological and psychological characteristics of an audience, principles, explain the nature and type of supporting materials, looking at main points, and the major patterns of speech organization. The nature of public speaking. Public speaking is a form of communication in which a speaker addresses a relatively large audience with a relatively continuous discourse, usually in a face-to-face situation, although this is rapidly changing as technology changes. It's different from texting and social media because you are genuinely face-to-face, gauging speaker feedback as you present. Believe it or not, as you progress through your degree toward your career, you'll find that you need to know how to speak publicly. Thus, for this course, you will find that public speaking helps to develop and refine general communication abilities. For one, to present yourself to others with confidence and self-assurance. 2, it'll help develop and refine your communication skills. And 3, you'll receive proper training to become an effective public speaker. Watch this speaker as he comes out with a dynamic, attention-getting device. He's confident, and it's clear he's had training in the art of speech making, and it's also clear that he has practiced this extensively.
So let's get started. What? So this is so huge. How does he start off his speech? There are two big things going on here. One, he starts with a prop, and sometimes that can feel hokey, and you're like, well, how do I do that in a business setting? The truth is, anything that is a physical object that people do not understand why you're doing it, whether you're holding some sort of piece of fruit as a metaphor, I've seen people do that, whatever it is, if you have a physical object, that helps to capture people's attention, and you're going to see
Anxiety. Communication apprehension, whatever you call it, you never know when it's going to hit you, or even if it will. For most people, yes, nerves are a big part of making speeches, and your textbook author points this out quite early. You will watch a clip on anxiety and know that you're not alone. It's important to note that apprehension works on a spectrum. So at the end of this semester, let's hope we've diminished any or some that you might have. But for the moment, you should pause the video and go to the personal report of public speaking anxiety. That's a mouthful. You're going to want to post your results to the discussion board. Read through pages 3 and 4 of your textbook, in which author DeVito offers 10 methods for reducing anxiety. These responses are due by the end of the day on Friday, September the 11th. Now, pick at least 3 ways in which you can help your anxiety and briefly explain how you may incorporate them into your first speech, the informative speech. These responses will be due by the end of the day on Friday, September 11th as well.
I like these somewhat high-risk things, the scuba, I've gone hang gliding, I've gone skydiving. I like a little bit of risk. I don't know, maybe that's why I do this. I saw a thing, actually, a study that said speaking in front of a crowd is considered the #1 fear of the average person. I found that amazing. #2 was death. Death is #2? This means to the average person, if you have to be at a funeral, you would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy.
One of the best methods for a successful speech is to stay on top of the steps and then practice, practice, and more practice. DeVito presents 10 steps in chapters 1 and 2, and then he discusses the informative speech in chapter 3. That's your first major speech. And finally, the persuasive speech in chapter 4. That will be your second and final major speech for this class. During the preparation of speech 1, you will be multitasking. 1, you'll be learning how to create a speech, and 2, you'll be practicing the steps, and 3, you will be creating a speech. By the time speech 2 rolls around, you'll be proficient in the process. So most of your work will go into research and also delivery skills. For now, be sure to read the suggestions on pages 4 and 5 of your textbook. And again, stay on top of these small steps. All right, so we need to begin at the beginning. And here, DeVito says that you select your topic, your purposes, and your thesis. You may want to open your workbook to follow along with these steps. I am omitting page numbers here because different printers do not always provide the same pagination. For step 1, instead of just saying, let's do all these 3 things at once, I've broken it down into 6 separate assignments, very small. Number 1A, find your topic. B, limit. C, refine. D, commit. E, your purpose statement, and F, thesis. Each one of these will be different, and each one of these you'll go through, read, learn, practice, and finally do. All right, let's begin at the beginning. Finding your topic. What is helpful about the list I have provided is that all of these topics lend themselves to an academic speech. The process is simple. This slide provides a look at how you might complete Step 1A. In your workbook, take a look at the larger boxes on the corresponding page and pick your top 3. It helps to rank them. Feel free to pause the video and keep in mind that these topics are broad and that you will be presenting an informative speech. So where do we go from here? Well, we have 3 steps during which time we are going to limit, and commit. Here they are all at once, but let's go through them one at a time. All right, let's start with the first one, 1A. We've gotten that done. We've ranked our 3 top picks. Now, our job is to take those 3 top picks and put them in the large bubbles in 1B. As for the smaller bubbles for each one, just look under your rankings and find those subtopics. If you look on this page, you'll see I've included an example for famous people. I included actors, geniuses, etc. Feel free to use famous people if you'd like, but just fill these out with your top rankings and complete the smaller bubbles. Let's begin work on step 1C. So you have this blank page. It has my topic. And what you're going to do is pick one of those topics that you selected in 1B. In this case, I stayed with famous people. And I also used geniuses, actors, architects, etc. And you can see that I have settled on the topic of actors. You should do the same. And now we're on 1D. If you look back at the previous slide, you'll see that one of the categories I had was famous people, and I had actors. And under actors, I included John Wayne, Marilyn Monroe, and a couple of others. Well, I ended up settling on Marilyn Monroe. So this is what the sample looks like, and this is what you need to do as well. How you fill out these bubbles is up to you. I encourage students at this point to do a little bit of research. First, start with, what do I know about Marilyn Monroe? Well, there was some question about her suicide. She was a famous actress. She was known as a blonde bombshell, but there must be more. So I need to get to work and fill out those smaller bubbles with all the information I can find, or the information that I think is going to interest me and my audience. Next on our agenda is the purpose. Purposes focus on the audience, and they tell the audience what you are going to talk about. In some cases, the general purpose of your speech will have been decided for you. As in homework 1A, I gave you a limited set of topics to select from and said your general topic is going to be informative for speech 1. So there are two major types for public speeches. Informative speeches. These create understanding, clarify, enlighten, correct misunderstandings, demonstrate how something works, explain how something is structured. In short, their purpose is to inform. The next speech is the persuasive speech, and these are intended to influence attitudes, behaviors, values, move the audience to some kind of action. In short, to persuade. So this will be your second major speech. But what you're going to do for your specific purpose here is to identify the information you want to communicate or the attitude or behavior you want to take a look at. We're going to limit the specific purpose a couple of times, so the speech will be substantive. For example, I want to inform my audience about fly fishing, or I want to inform my audience about how to cast a fly rod. So here's what you keep in mind. Like a conversation starter, it's not in a sentence form, but in an infinitive form, such as to inform, to explain, to discuss, to describe, etc. It's how you let the audience know what you're going to be talking about. The last part of step 1 includes your thesis statement. Okay, now, this doesn't focus on the audience, but it focuses on your attitude toward the topic, how you want them to feel about this topic. So the focus is on the message. You can see this example about Marilyn Monroe. I'd like to remind you that the thesis is always in a complete declarative sentence. For example, fly fishing is the best way to enjoy northern Michigan summers. You'll find a practice exercise for writing your purpose and thesis statements in your workbook. Be sure you move on and complete sections 1E and 1F, which are the do sections for step 1. And then you're done.